Developing today, Prince Harry's shock threat to Prince William as he plans a showdown in the United Kingdom this week. Now, of course, I'm disgusted by this, but not at all surprised.
All right, let's dive into this. What we're really looking at here is another round of the ongoing royal soap opera, Prince Harry versus a Monarchy, with William in particular caught in Harry's crosshays. The story is framed as Harry planning a kind of showdown in the UK, extending what was supposed to be a quick trip into a 4-day minotaur. And according to critics, this isn't about service or duty. It's about deliberately stepping on his brother's spotlight and keeping himself in the headlines.
Because for all of Harry's talk from his team in the so-called Peace Summit, what this man sets out to do at every possible interview is overshadow the royal family, trample over their good work, and try and make his brother and his brother's wife, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, look bad. Which is why Charles, who is quite rightly spending some time commemorating and marking the fact that it is exactly 3 years since his ascension to the throne, needs to hold firm. But details of exactly what Harry is doing has emerged from Shooter Scoop on Substack, who writes, Prince Harry's latest move has Buckingham Palace buzzing. The Duke of Sussex has quietly stretched his upcoming trip home into a 4-day tour, with a packed schedule that insiders say looks like a deliberate challenge to Prince William. The centrepiece will be a quasi-royal engagement at a Nottingham community recording studio where Harry plans to announce a major donation to children in need. This isn't a quick stop, it's a statement, one royal aide tells Shooter Scoop. Harry's showing Britain he can still do the work without needing palace approval. The timing couldn't be trickier. Kate Middleton is still recovering, William's calendar is overloaded, and now Harry is grabbing cameras, shaking hands and reclaiming attention. William believes Harry thrives on drama, says a longtime courtier, and this feels like provocation. But Harry's friends fiercely defend him. Harry's never been about protocol, one close pal explains. He's about people, service, connection. Whether or not William likes it, Harry isn't going to stop. Well, we know that. We know that. Every extra day in Britain ups the stakes. This isn't just a visit, says another insider. It's a message. Harry still sees himself as the prince of the people. Well, look, Harry, you might see yourself as the prince of the people, mate, but that is not how the people view you. And you're going to have to get your head around that. And we know what you're doing, because this is actually a very busy week for Prince William, who has engagements on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But of course, Harry's new little propagandist, Charlotte Griffiths from the Mail on Sunday, was sent out to GB News to sort of explain why this was in any way appropriate. Watch.
So the big reveal is that Harry has quietly padded out his UK trip into a 4-day affair, complete with an itinerary that looks suspiciously like a royal tour. His scheduled speeches, charity visits, and the big centerpiece, announcing a major donation to children in need at a Nottingham community studio.
Would love to sort of do royal events, have his kids here being Prince and Princess Archie and Lily, but that's never going to happen in a million years. But I think he's quite realistic. I think he just literally wants to get them in the country. They haven't been in the country since June 2022, I think, from memory.
Wow.
And, I think it's kind of crazy. He's just, how has he let it get this far? And I think he's just coming to realise that. He's just thinking, I want my kids to meet somebody from my side of the family, rather than just the Californian, crowd that they hang around with. So I think just that basic need needs to be met first, then who knows what might happen in the future.
That basic need needs to be met. She's talking about security, which he's not going to get. And there's been a whole court case about it, okay? But Hello Magazine, a source to Hello Magazine tells us, Harry's in a really good headspace. He's really looking forward to seeing everyone from his patronages face to face. He's really positive about coming back to do all the stuff he loves, which includes, by the way, apparently announcing a substantial donation to children in need. And Hello quotes a source saying Harry may not be able to see his father at all, as if it's his choice, not the king's. I mean, Angela Levin, you messaged me and you just said Harry is dangerous, and I think he is proving that today.
I think he's very dangerous as well. One of the things he said to the king. Now, if you really want to please someone, you've had an argument with them, you have to get softer, you have to give in, you have to apologize. But he's done the absolute opposite. They've had an argument, the king's aides and his aides discussing about where they're going to go. Now, Harry said, without a doubt, he's absolutely determined they're not going anywhere near a royal home. They're going to go somewhere where it's different, where nobody is there. We can talk. Now, that is a nonsense, and anybody with any intelligence can see through this. One, he doesn't want Camilla to come because she always listens in, because she's there to support the king, and he can't bear it because she's down to earth and clever. And the other thing is that if he starts shouting at him, which is what he's done most of the time since he's come back to see him, he might be ill. The day was suggested was Wednesday because Harry's got a few minutes and the king is possibly going to London to have his cancer treatment, which he has regularly. Now, is he thinking for himself or is he thinking for the Charles? Easy. It's about himself.
Well, yes, and
So he's
also,
come
Angela,
up.
the other thing
Pardon?
that the other thing he didn't factor in is that I'm pretty certain that Charles will not actually be having his cancer treatment, did not actually have his cancer treatment this week on Monday. Now, I know that that is something that had been predicted because that was usual, but of course, Monday marks the 3-year anniversary of him acceding the throne, becoming king. So my belief is he has actually postponed the cancer treatment so that he can be with Camilla because he always commemorates the anniversary of his mother's death privately.
Yeah, that's perfectly right. But the other things that he insists on, I mean, the arrogance is beyond anything. I mean, he was called as sort of quasi-rural, but it's actually absolutely appalling. One, he wants his father to promise that he will pay entirely from his own pocket a 24/7 protection. Now, for 4 of them. Now, that's never going to happen, is it? That's nonsense. The other one is that Buckingham Palace takes over dealing with the press and photographers to stop anything bad happening to him and Meghan. Is that going to happen? No. And the worst one, or the biggest one, or the most ridiculous one, is Meghan has to be HRH. And that means that you can curtsy to them and bow to them, and that puts you up a rang or two. Now, she really wants that. He really wants that for her. But what nonsense. I haven't heard anyone to be so rude about what they had. That mocking thing she did for Netflix. When she bent over, right over, and looked all sweet and said, "I'm so sorry," and that was disgustingly rude. And she's also said, that's the thing. And she's also said that having a title doesn't bother her at all. She's much beyond that, which she does about a lot of things that she really wants. Now, why should she have anything like that, HRH? She's worked 72 days with the royal family. She hates us. She doesn't like anyone in the royal family. She doesn't want to come to London. And what is she going to do? Is she going to do things that are suggested and walk behind Catherine? And that's the hierarchy? No, she's going to do nothing. So what is Harry doing? He's actually killing what he wants to come alive to. I mean, and I think that that's nonsense. And I think it's just to get a lot of attention because he's never going to win on those ones. But if he had took his father to a small place where they're just by themselves, which I know is not going to happen, but it's a way to shout and scream and do all that. And I think that, it's desperately unhappy. And the things that he's going to, one of them is I went to the Nottingham and I was with him twice. And it's an area that's St Anne's, which is very poor. And he went in there to talk to young people, teenagers, who'd been thrown out of school, thrown out of everywhere. And he wanted to help them. And he did very well because he talked to them really well. And I was surprised. When I went there first before him, people said I couldn't care less about him, but in larger, in more rude words. But when he came in, he was making them laugh and they all wanted photographs with him. And that was right. And then suddenly, when Megan came along, boom, nothing. And the man who's given his life to do these with these difficult children, he was devastated because Harry just left him. So if he's going round the next few days to say, "Oh, hi, here I am again," I don't think he's going to get a very good response, actually, because he left this man with no money because he gave money and with not that feeling that you get someone special in who can do well. So I'm very sure that that's going to be difficult for him.
Well, yes.
And for the
And Angela,
investors,
the other thing that has just been completely forgotten, is the BBC interview. So I just want to remind everyone
yes.
what Harry said literally a matter of months ago, because trust me, the royal family haven't forgotten. Watch.
So why does this matter beyond royal gossip? Because it's about power, image, and the future of the monarchy. Charles is marking his 3rd year as king. William and Catherine are positioning themselves as the next generation. The firm is trying to modernize and stabilize. And then there's Harry, popping up with his quasi-royal roadshows, confusing the public and undermining the institution's clarity.
There have been so many disagreements, differences between me and some of my family. This current situation that has been ongoing for 5 years with regard to human life and safety is the sticking point. It is the only thing that's left. Of course, some members of my family will never forgive me for writing a book. Of course, they will never forgive me for lots of things. But, you know, there is... I would love reconciliation with my family. There's no point in continuing to fight anymore. As I said, life is precious. I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff. But it would be nice to reconcile.
I mean, then that wasn't all. He then made it clear that he was using his wife and his children as a bargaining chip and they would not be returning.
I can't see a world in which I would be bringing my wife and children back to the UK at this point. And the things that they're going to miss is, well, everything. You know, I love my country. I always have done.
Well, there's been a mega U-turn because, of course, Harry knows that he effed up massively in terms of the court case. So now Roy Anika, the royal editor of the Sunday Times, has been briefed that Harry wants to come home much more, and bring his family home with him. No thanks, we're okay. But I've got to take you through this because it's extraordinary stuff. So she writes, since leaving the royal fold for America 5 years ago, the Duke of Sussex has had his rare visits to the UK dominated by the angst of battles with his family, the media and the government. This week, Prince Harry is determined to press the reset button to try to change that negative narrative during a 4-day visit, his longest trip back since Queen Elizabeth's death. He will again travel solo without his young family. After losing his battle with the Home Office after his level of security, he reiterated that he does not believe it is safe, as we just saw. But those close to Harry say he will not give up hope on bringing them here. There is now an acknowledgement by the Prince and his camp that pressing the nuclear button of a public battle with His Majesty's government and courts was not the wisest idea. A case which is reported to have cost Harry more than £1 million. He will now pursue a quieter under-the-radar approach. Those close to the Prince say the government should expect private lobbying from the Prince on the matter to continue. A friend said he's not given up hope on bringing his family back to the UK. He wants to be able to show his children where he grew up. He wants them to know their family here. He really would like to come back to the UK much more. Now, I have to say here that this is the absolute lunacy of Prince Harry's strategy, because you can't lose a court case. You can't take your father to court, lose a court case, put your whole family through some hell, and then once you've lost, say, oh yeah, that was a mistake, so I'm just going to go back to private lobbying. No, you're an adult. There are consequences to your decision, and you lost. You had your ass handed to you.
He may not officially be in the royal fold, but he still uses the titles, the networks, and the royal image when it benefits him. It's a direct threat to the monarchy's consistency, and that's why insiders call him dangerous. Not because he's plotting some coup, but because he keeps destabilizing the narrative. To sum it up, Harry's latest UK trip is less about charity and more about competition. He's stretching it into a 4-day spectacle to prove he can still act royal, even without palace backing. His pressing old demands, security, titles, recognition, while pretending this is all about reconciliation. Meanwhile, William and Charles aren't budging, and Meghan lurks in the background with her own ambitions. The irony? The more Harry tries to prove himself, the more he reveals how much he still depends on the royal brand. Without the crown, without the institution, his gestures don't carry the same weight. And deep down, he knows it. That's why he keeps circling back, clashing diaries, pushing peace talks, and staging donations. At the end of the day, this isn't about the people, or charity, or service. It's about one man's refusal to accept the consequences of walking away.